of shooting, we picked the most difficult set ever. Smoke, mirrors in every direction. Love it. Welcome to Twilight.
You're listening to Another Bite of Twilight, a podcast where we look back on our obsession with the Twilight saga and continue to freak out 10 years later.
Hey guys.
So awkward. Hi.
Thanks for tuning in this week. Happy Twilight Tuesday.
Happy Twilight Tuesday.
I'm Mel,
I'm Kel.
and this is another
Bite
of
Twilight. Your one and only Twilight podcast. If you're listening to another one, drop it. As we said 2 episodes ago.
Yes. And don't start your own either.
If you want to be on the air, just let us know. But please don't start your own episode.
Don't get any ideas from us saying that either.
There's been so many articles lately that are like, there's a Twilight Renaissance, or
Twilight's coming back.
Twilight wasn't that bad.
Yes.
There's so many articles like that right now, and it's like, what about us?
Yes.
We have a friggin' podcast about that. I don't know how to get in touch with those people, but
I saw that Anna Kendrick tweeted this week. I just remembered I was in Twilight.
people think that she's serious.
Yeah.
She's obviously not.
People were like, Anna Kendrick forgot she was in Twilight.
Such clickbait.
Yeah.
Obviously, she didn't totally forget she was in 4 movies.
Yeah, it was like she just probably what I would do if I was her is you wake up and you're like, holy shit, I was in Twilight.
Yeah, like, oh my god, I just
Yeah.
remembered. I know, people thought that was for real.
Yeah.
I also,
People are idiots.
this is something I wanted to say, is originally on Vice Canada, then shared on Vice America, this guy had this article that said that he was like admitting that he's always loved Twilight.
Oh, I love that.
That he pretended he used to hate it, and like he would go with his girlfriend to the movie theater and stuff, and would act like, oh, like here we go, like pretending he was dragged, but apparently he loved it the whole time and has them all on DVD.
Oh my god.
So a lot of people are coming out of the closet.
That's like so Ryder, my friend.
Really?
He's a boy. He's gonna be on the show.
Yeah,
I don't think he wants to be.
he
But
has to be.
He knows everything about Twilight. Like, was like, oh, I got mushroom ravioli and I thought
What?
of Twilight. Yeah, he knows everything.
He
He was
said that?
explaining things to me. I was like, why can't they just kill all the humans? He was like explaining how technology is getting so powerful.
I almost feel like this is just a different tangent, that there just aren't enough vampires for them to take over humans. Seems like there aren't that many.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you know why?
Why?
I just learned from reading the book, is because it's very difficult for them to bite a vampire and then stop.
You mean by the human?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Oh, yes. You're right.
Because
So they rarely turn anybody.
yeah, it's like, as Edward says in the movie, few vampires have the strength to do what Carlisle did.
You're so good with those quotes. Okay, I have 2 little stories.
Okay, I have
To
one
share.
short story.
Share it.
Oh, I was going to say that I listened to this other podcast called This Is Us Too, and it's about This Is Us, and it's this husband and wife. They're from Rhode Island.
That's cute.
Yeah, and they just,
Husband and wife.
yeah, and they just talk about each episode, like, as it comes out. And the last episode of This Is Us was directed by Catherine Hardwicke. And so they talked about how they loved Twilight. And the first 3 movies they said were really good. And not the other 2. And I was okay with that.
Yeah. That's so funny they said that.
And it was the guy who said it. He was like, I loved those first movies. And in the end, they played Bella's Lullaby.
Aww.
Yeah, and they played, like, clips of...
That's so sweet.
Yeah, and it just made me think, like, wow, like, it's, like, totally acceptable to say that you love Twilight now.
Yes. But people are very mean to you if you say you... At least, I think they're getting nicer, but people were very mean if you said you liked Twilight. Yes. For sure. Not like you have to defend yourself. It comes with all these assumptions. Like, that's the thing. That's the problem with everything. When you say you like something or you are something or whatever, whether, not to get too political here, but people have like all these assumptions about you just from that. And it's like, that's the problem. It's like, you don't know me. Like, you think I'm stupid or something because I like Twilight. Like, that's not true. Yeah. Like, you don't know me. And like, same for everything else. So.
My older brother used to bully me and be like, you're just a dumb teenage girl who likes a sparkly vampire. He was like number one
just
insult.
A dumb teenage girl who likes a sparkly vampire.
Yeah, and it's like, get to know me, get to know the story.
Yeah.
There's more to me than that.
Yeah, there was more to you than that.
Fuck you, Kevin.
He's probably not listening, right?
No, I highly doubt it.
Oh, has Sean listened?
No, probably not.
Oh my gosh.
It's tough to get people in your life to listen.
It's tough, yeah. People in my life that are listening, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I didn't even expect that.
I wonder if there's like a random person who's like
from our high school.
From high school who like keeps tuning in.
I hope that, I would love if they told me.
Yeah.
No matter how random if you feel.
Yeah, let me know.
No matter how random you feel, tell me.
Yeah.
Because think about how embarrassing it is for us. Putting ourselves out there like this, like.
Oh, but I could see someone listening solely like, this is pessimistic, but like, you know, when you go to someone to hate, and to be like, oh.
I knew you were going to say that, yeah. To laugh at us.
But let me know as well.
Thunder Mifflin. Okay.
All right.
Wait, should I tell my little stories?
Yes.
Okay. I was on the T the other day, the subway, for people who don't live in Boston, and there was this family. I guess you're gonna know where this is going, but
no, I don't.
But, okay, well, this mom and her two daughters were on the train, and the girl was reading so intensely something. She was like bent over reading something, and I was like, wow, she seems so into that. I wonder if it's Twilight. It was!
Oh my god! I love it.
Like, when they got up to leave, she stood and like closed the book, and then I saw the apple, and I was like, oh my god.
Yes!
I know.
That makes me so happy.
She was like 12.
I love that. Did I tell you, I think I did, that I saw a homeless woman in Boston reading Twilight? And not just like I'm like assuming she was homeless. Wrapped in a blanket, like on the ground.
Gosh, reading
like,
Twilight.
Reading Twilight. It made me happy, but I felt sad for her.
Yeah, but it's cool. Yeah. Is that weird that it's cool? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know like how to describe it, but it was like, wow, that's like awesome that someone gave that to her, she found it, or I hope that it
made her day.
Yeah. You can cut that out if you want. I feel like it's not gonna come out good.
I don't know how to put it. Like, I don't know. Okay. My other story is I was at the library yesterday printing things out, and I brought my laptop and I was sitting at a desk, and I was like Googling Twilight stuff, you know, as I do for the podcast, and this family walked by, another family, and the girl walks by and then so loudly goes, she's watching Twilight, she's just watching Twilight, Mom, all she's doing is watching Twilight.
Oh my god.
Like everybody heard. I was just like, I just kind of stared straight ahead. 7 or something.
Oh my god, that's so weird.
Okay, I was not watching Twilight at the library. I was like looking at pictures, okay? Like,
she's watching.
She said she's just watching Twilight. Like,
as if you should be doing something
like studying
else.
or something. Yeah. Oh my god.
That's so funny. You're in a public library.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I can do what I want.
That's hilarious. What did the mom say?
I didn't hear any response from the mom.
Did you say anything to the girl? No.
They didn't even like look at me. They walked past. And she was saying it.
Cool that the 7-year-old can
recognize
identify
I didn't even
Twilight.
know how, because I thought it was kind of small on the screen. I don't even know how she recognized it that quickly.
Damn, she's so nosy.
I know. Jeez.
Kids.
Be careful at the library, people.
Yeah.
People are watching. Okay. So this week we are talking about the book Twilight. We both reread it.
Yes. Well, I'm halfway through.
It's great.
But we're going to talk about the first half of the book.
Yes.
This is part 1.
It was crazy to read because I haven't read it in so long.
Yeah.
Years.
And as we said in the first movie episode, I thought that the movie really captured Twilight so well. But rereading the book, I'm realizing it's very different.
It is very different. It's kind of its own thing. Really.
And I feel like the characters are different.
Yeah. So much is different. Some things are in the movie are great, but I think some things are lost. Yes. First, I want to say that I feel like everyone regards Twilight, the book, as being a really bad book. Like, oh, illiterate. I was just going to say that on the back of the book, it says, a New York Times editor's choice. And it also says an Amazon best book of the decade.
So far.
Publishers Weekly best book of the year. Like, what? Obviously people thought this was a good book at first.
Yeah, Publishers Weekly.
Then the world turned their back on it.
Yeah.
I wish I could go back to 2005. Book list. This dark romance is gripping. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that, you know, before it got really popular, people thought it was pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I remember hearing great things about it before it got big.
Yeah. Typical. Now, just because something's, as we've already said before, because something's popular or the majority doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah. People love to hate things just because other people like them.
Yeah.
And people hate it before giving it a chance. I think everyone would love it if they tried it.
That's why we have the show. Okay, so shall we get into it?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the first 13 chapters of the book and tell you things that we made a note of.
Yeah, so you don't have to read it.
We are having a Socratic seminar.
So first chapter, Schmooze Forks.
First chapter is called First Sight. She moves to... I feel like if you're listening, you know the story. We don't need to explain this to you.
Well, maybe someone's listening who actually doesn't remember a single thing. No, we don't have to get too heavy in the plot, but...
Obviously, this is when she arrives in Forks. Something that I made a note of, it's very small. Well, I made a mental note of one thing, is that I feel so bad for Charlie in this part. She's so mean.
Yeah. Well, I also feel bad for beautiful Pacific Northwest. She's like, it was too green, an alien planet.
Yeah, green is like...
No, I mean, I don't want to diss the desert. People live in the desert. The desert looks beautiful too, but evergreen trees are beautiful. I wish I lived there. Like, shut up. I was mad at Bella there.
Yeah, I was kind of mad at her a lot in this first chapter.
She changed her mind later, but...
Yeah.
And she keeps talking about that, like, oh, so much squishy green stuff. Where's all the brown dirt?
Yeah. It's, like, unrealistic that someone would have a thought like that.
Maybe. I don't know. If anybody feels that way, let us know.
She clearly, in this first scene, is not excited about moving. And it's really evident how distant she is from Charlie, which I kind of forgot. She really doesn't seem to have any connection to him. And there was a weird part. He says to her, do you remember Billy Black down at La Push when he's talking about the truck that she got? And she says, no. And then he says, he used to go fishing with us during the summer. And she says, that would explain why I didn't remember him. I do a good job of blocking painful, unnecessary things from my memory.
What? Painful. Yeah, she's a little...
That's dramatic.
Yeah. I feel like in the book she hates things like gym and outdoorsy things like even more than in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
She talks about it all the time.
Yeah, it's a lot. And she actually... she actually...
I don't know.
She actually doesn't seem that excited to get her truck either.
Yeah. But in the movie, she says, "Oh, this is perfect."
Yeah, in the movie, she's so excited. I was
Yeah.
just, like, underwhelmed by her reaction to getting the truck.
Mm-hmm. It's weird. Was the script written that way? I wonder if we can get a copy of the script.
Yeah.
Or was Kristen Stewart... Doesn't Kristen Stewart not really read her lines?
Is that... Have you heard that?
I remember her saying in an interview once that she doesn't memorize her lines. I think she does if it's like an important part, but
Yeah.
she learns the idea of it so that it comes out more natural.
Oh, wow.
And that's why she stutters, kinda, is because she's like
Trying to be
coming up
natural.
with it.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like she didn't do that as much in the later movies. I bet once it got really big, they were like, read your lines word for word.
Well, there's some quotes she definitely needs to get. Like,
yeah.
So the line fell in the flame, like, what a stupid lamb. Like, she has to actually say that. You can't just, like...
Yeah, but what are you talking about? What, like,
yeah, I think that part, things like that, she said that she doesn't remember word for word.
Because, like, stuttering is, like, a part of her, every character she plays.
I know, maybe sometimes she shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I feel like it's, like, regular people, do they stutter that much? I don't know. Another part that I had for this chapter is on page 10, I just marked Bella's thoughts here. She's just so insecure, and it just feels very typical teenage girl, and that's not a criticism. Like, I feel like this is why a lot of girls who are reading this can relate so much to her, because they feel a lot of these same things. She says, maybe if I looked like a girl from Phoenix I could work this to my advantage, but physically, I'd never fit in anywhere. I should be tan, sporty, blonde, a volleyball player, or a cheerleader, perhaps, all the things that go with living in the valley in the sun. Instead, I was ivory-skinned, without even the excuse of blue eyes or red hair, despite the constant sunshine. I had always been slender but soft somehow, obviously not an athlete. I didn't have the necessary hand-eye coordination to play sports without humiliating myself, and harming both myself and anyone else who stood too close. Like, she's just very, like, self-deprecating. And she's, like, thinking of things in such a simplistic way. Like, I should be sporty. I should be a cheerleader. I should fit into this. And I feel like when you're that age, you're so caught up in, like, where do you belong? And, like,
yeah, totally.
Who are you? And I feel like, like, teenage girls can really relate to that.
And then on that same page, she says, I didn't relate well to people my age.
Yeah.
Maybe the truth was that I didn't relate well to people, period. Even my mother, who I was closer to than anyone else on the planet, was never in harmony with me. So, kind of, we've talked about this in past episodes, like, why doesn't Bella really have friends? Or why doesn't she talk to them? Or it's weird, but I guess she just doesn't feel like she relates to people.
Yeah, but I think it's this funny thing, like, I'm saying that other teenagers can relate to that, and it's like this weird unspoken feeling that everyone has at that age, and they think they're the only ones that feel that way.
It's true. Any other notes for this chapter?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how Bella says that Charlie is still hung up on Renee. I totally forgot about that.
That's sad.
Yeah.
What?
She says, it was impossible being in this house not to realize that Charlie had never gotten over my mom. It made me uncomfortable.
It's sad.
Because he still had family pictures of them up.
That's so sweet.
I think.
Renee totally left him.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy.
I know. I will say, though, in the book, Charlie has way less personality than in the movie.
Yeah.
I noticed that. Like, Billy Burke brings so much to the character.
Yeah, I think Billy Burke is, like, one of the best parts of the movies.
Yeah. I mean, in the books, Charlie isn't really funny, or he doesn't really have a witty, responses or anything. He's just kind of the dad. Like, I don't know, he's nice and all, but I don't know.
That goes with a note I had for a later chapter when Edward saves Bella from the van.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're in the hospital room after, that scene just was not as good because you didn't have Charlie's comedic.
Yeah. It's so different.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that scene, too.
Yeah.
We'll get to
You really missed that.
So she sees the Cullens.
Yeah. Off of that, I thought that when she's looking at the Cullens, she's, like, too aware that they're vampires.
Yeah.
It's like Stephenie Meyer has this knowledge about them, and she gives too much of that to Bella early on.
Yeah.
Like she says, as I looked swiftly away, it seemed to me that his glance held some kind of unmet expectation.
Right? Like, how would you even notice?
That's just such a weird thing to notice
if
about
I looked
someone.
at somebody at a bar or something, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm never in a cafeteria anymore, but if I just looked at someone, how would I ever understand that he's looking at me with an unmet expectation?
Yeah.
I don't even understand what that would look like.
I couldn't picture it. And it just seemed like it was
we know it's that he's expecting to hear thoughts.
Yeah.
But she shouldn't know that.
Yeah, I just thought it was weird.
Second chapter is Open Book. This is the one when they really, like, meet, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is...
Wait a second. In chapter 1, did that whole thing happen where they were partners and he is a jerk and then leaves?
I think so.
Because here in chapter 2, they're talking.
Yeah, I think so. This happens really
very fast.
quickly. Yeah. When he's questioning her in the movie, we see him being like, why didn't you move with your mother and Phil?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like asking her all these questions, but I didn't realize just how forward he is in this part. He says, but now you're unhappy, he pointed out, and I challenged. That doesn't seem fair, he shrugged, but his eyes were still intense. I laughed without humor. Hasn't anyone ever told you life isn't fair? I believe I have heard that somewhere before, he said dryly. So that's all, I insisted, wondering why he was still staring at me that way. His gaze became abrasing. You put on a good show, he said slowly, but I'd be willing to bet that you're suffering more than you let anyone see. It's just, like, really analyzing her more than we see in the movie.
Yeah, it's true.
I feel like I didn't read those lines with the delivery that was intended.
It's okay.
But...
Oh, and then this part is different from the movie. I mean, so much is different, but...
Yeah.
She says, did you get contacts? I blurted out unthinkingly. Which, is that even a word? I don't know.
No.
He seemed puzzled by my unexpected question. No. Oh, I mumbled. I thought there was something different about your eyes. He shrugged and looked away. Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
He just goes, no.
No.
But in the movie, he's like, oh, yeah, no, it's the
fluorescence. And then he walks away. I wonder if Robert Pattinson made that up.
I don't know. Well, let's give, what's her name, Melissa
Rosenberg.
Let's give her some credit. I'm sure she came up with that. Yeah. It's weird to me that the Cullens never, ever came up with an explanation for that, just in case someone noticed.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Like, you never thought, oh, what are we going to tell people? What? Like, when our eyes change color?
It's, like, weird that, like, when Bella, for instance, in Breaking Dawn, Charlie's coming over, she puts on brown contacts to hide the change.
Eyes, yeah.
Why, when their eyes change to black, why don't they put contacts in?
I don't know.
I also think some of them should wear, like, different colored contacts, because it's, like, weird this whole adopted family has the same
like, golden brown eyes.
Yeah.
How would nobody notice that, too?
Yeah, that's really...
He says, like, oh, everyone subconsciously is scared so they don't get close to us.
And they don't look in our eyes.
Buy that.
Yeah.
I know, some should have blue eyes, some should have brown eyes.
Yeah.
Green, perhaps.
Yeah. If Bella notices, people probably notice.
No, Bella's just special.
Chapter 3.
Phenomenon. Oh, I have something on the second page of that chapter.
Say it.
Page 54. I just thought this part was interesting. So, as always, Bella is telling us what she eats for breakfast. There's so much detail in this book. Yeah. It's crazy. And I just thought it was interesting. She says, if I was being honest with myself, I knew I was eager to get to school because I would see Edward Cullen. And that was very, very stupid. And then the next page, it says, possibly my crippling clumsiness was seen as endearing rather than pathetic, casting me as a damsel in distress. I just thought that was interesting because people kind of always criticize Bella for being too obsessed with Edward / being a damsel in distress, but Stephenie Meyer / our narrator Bella is like aware of that.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, like Stephenie Meyer didn't even know, like, she wrote this weak loser character who's obsessed. Like, actually, she did know. Like, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool, actually. Like, she's self-aware.
Yeah, actually, relating to that, she says in chapter 4, I couldn't allow him to have this level of influence over me. It was pathetic. More than pathetic, it was unhealthy. Like, she knows that she's thinking about him too much.
Yeah. And I think that's, like, normal, though.
Yeah.
And relatable.
I do that.
I've definitely felt that way before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, are we just lying if we say that, like, when we're really into someone that they don't just creep into our thoughts when we're making breakfast? Like,
I know. I think you are lying if you say that doesn't happen.
Yeah. We always want to act like we're less interested than we are.
I know. Because everyone's scared. Really, I feel like the whole world is... Everyone deep down wants to, like, be in love.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why people go to bars and stuff. Like,
yeah.
They're looking for someone.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Everyone's in denial of that.
I know. It's crazy. The next thing I had is on page 57. So this is when the van almost crushes her. And I just thought this was interesting because it's quite different from in the movie.
Yeah.
Just Edward's reaction. In the movie, he kind of just, like, stops the van, looks at her, and then walks away, right?
And I had this same thing.
Yeah, and in the book, it says, I could hear Edward Cullen's low, frantic voice in my ear. Bella, are you all right? Like, he said that.
Yeah.
I thought that surprised me.
Yeah, in the movie, he just, like, walks away.
Yeah, he's not concerned at all, really.
No.
Or he doesn't show it, at least, but his low, frantic voice, like, it's cute.
He says, be careful. He warned as I struggled. I think you hit your head pretty hard.
Yeah, and then here, I became aware of a throbbing ache centered above my left ear. Ow, I said, surprised. So in the book, at least, she does hit her head.
Yeah.
But then in the movie, it's unclear. And he's like, you hit your head pretty hard. And we're like, is that true or is he lying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
But he's very sweet here.
Yeah. We're going to get to more excerpts as we go, but Edward is so sweet in the book.
Yeah, and I think that's why I think a lot of that's why I think a lot of Team Jacob people maybe didn't read the book, because he's just so nice.
He's like, a cutie. Ugh. Like, he really is, and I feel like that's not conveyed in the movie.
Yeah. He comes off kind of like a jerk in these first few scenes.
Yeah,
in the movie.
It's true. Edward in the book is a little, like, he does have his kind of mean, not mean, but like a little uptight. But then, like, a second later, he's really nice again.
No, your mood swings are kind of giving me whiplash.
Yeah. He does have mood swings.
Yeah. It's, like, weird. It'll be like he said dryly, and then he said playfully.
What? Nobody switches that quickly.
I cannot picture that, yeah.
I know.
But I think maybe the point is that he's like...
He growled. Then,
yeah.
Then he joked.
Yeah. Like, what?
Like, 1 second later. Oh my gosh, Edward. When's your next quote?
I don't have anything for chapter 4, because I just, like...
I have another one.
Shared it, yeah.
Okay, this is when we just mentioned the part when at the hospital, Charlie comes to see Bella. Is she okay? And in the movie, Tyler's like, I'm so sorry, Bella. I'm so sorry. And, you know, Charlie, like, yanks the curtain over. This is on page 61. In the book, first of all, people thought that Edward was, like, caught up in it somehow, because I don't think he, like, ran away. Tyler says, "Hey, Edward, I'm really sorry." Edward lifted a hand to stop him. "No blood, no foul," he said, flashing his brilliant teeth. He moved to sit on the edge of Tyler's bed. That's friendly. Facing me. He smirked again. "So what's the verdict?" he asked. Like, he's acting so, like, nice and nonchalant and stuff. Very nice to Tyler. Sits on his bed. I was shocked by that, because in the movie he's so, like, icy and mean in that scene.
I actually had a note for there, too. I didn't realize it. Mm-hmm. He comes and visits her.
Yeah.
It's really sweet.
Book Edward is amazing. I love him.
She says, "There's nothing wrong with me at all, but they won't let me go," I complained. "How come you weren't strapped to a gurney like the rest of us?" "It's all about who you know," he answered. "But don't worry, I came to spring you." So he, like, helps her get out of the hospital, too. It's, like...
so casual and playful and stuff.
Yeah.
It's much different in the movie.
I wonder why that choice was made.
I wonder. And that's the part where he's like, what exactly was that? Like, he's so mean in that part.
Yeah. He does say, "Well, no one's going to believe you," in this part.
Oh, yeah. Nobody will believe that, you know.
But after he's already done all these sweet things, it seems a little less, like, jerky.
Mm-hmm. That's true. This is kind of funny to me. I don't know why. "Why did you even bother?" I asked frigidly. He paused, and for a brief moment his stunning face was unexpectedly vulnerable. "I don't know," he whispered.
Aww.
Whispered. Okay, I don't know if I made notes of this, but Edward, in the book, sings and hums a lot, too.
Yeah.
Which is not in the movie.
Whispers.
So cute. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, chapter 4. Invitations.
I don't have anything for this part.
Oh, I have what you already said. More than pathetic, it was unhealthy.
Yeah.
Do I have anything else? So this is just Edward and Bella talking a lot. Edward asks her to go to Seattle with him. So that wasn't in the movie either. There's this whole part where there's a spring dance. It's not the prom, actually. It's like a spring formal.
Yeah, I was so confused by that, because I was like, people keep asking her to go to the spring dance. Mm-hmm. And they're like, in 2 weeks. And so I was like, what? Does this whole story take place in 2 weeks?
No, there's 2 dances. There's 2 dances.
Oh, I was so confused. I was like, oh my God, that's too unrealistic.
So she doesn't want to go to the spring dance, and her excuse is she's going to Seattle. And she actually does want to go to Seattle to go shopping for books. And Edward asks if he can drive her, because he's worried.
Yeah.
That she'll die.
Because she's a human. She's prone to accidents.
Mm-hmm. So that's a whole thing. They actually don't end up going to Seattle, which is too bad. That kind of would have been cool, but yeah.
There's a lot of planning in this book. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, like, we're going to do this on Saturday.
Yeah.
And then we see Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday leading up to Saturday.
It's true.
You know?
You're so right.
And then, like, we're going to do this.
Like the night with Angela and Jessica, and then they change the plans to the next day.
Yeah, and a lot of, like, I'm going to leave your car here. And then I'm going to tell Charlie that I drove, and then you're going to drive. Actually, I'm going to drive. There's, like, a lot of, like, normal logistics that they have to work out before they do something.
I kind of appreciate that.
Yeah. No, it makes it feel more real.
Yeah. Chapter 5 is wonderful, not in the movie at all.
I completely forgot about this
blood
chapter.
type. They do blood typing in science class. Edward skips, obviously. Bella faints, and Edward carries her to the nurse. Well, first Mike tries to help her, and then Edward shows up and is like, I'll take over. And Mike is obviously annoyed. And
Mike is a huge part of this.
Oh, Mike's in it so much.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
He was really trying to date Bella.
Yeah.
Do you have any notes from this chapter?
I just thought it was interesting that she's squeamish, because she's not squeamish in the movies. It's really cute that he picks her up and, like, carries her to the nurse's office.
I know. It's just cute to think about. I wonder why it wasn't in the movie. Maybe they thought it was too much or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little, like, again, it's, like, on the nose. It's like, oh, look, she's fainting at the sight of blood, and he's a vampire, and he drinks blood. Haha.
Yeah, and he skipped the class.
Yeah.
I made a note on page 87. It's just a little thing. My head snapped up. I followed her gaze to see Edward smiling crookedly, staring at me from an empty table across the cafeteria from where he usually sat. Once he'd caught my eye, he raised one hand and motioned with his index finger for me to join him. As I stared in disbelief, he winked.
Oh my god.
Like, Edward would never do that in the movie. Like, he smiles and raises up a finger, goes.
He's kind of creepy, but it's like mysterious.
No, I feel like
alluring.
I feel like it's not creepy though because he's so cute.
Yeah, exactly.
If you saw him do it,
100%. You can get away with anything if you're attractive.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Okay, not everything.
Most things.
No, I didn't think it was creepy. I thought it was really cute. And I just loved it, and I kind of wish that was in the movie.
Yeah, no, he's kind of funny in the books.
He is. He has a little sense of humor. Sorry about the sound of me flipping through the book. There's just a lot of him smiling in it that I think isn't in the movie. For instance, at the end of this chapter, it says he was still smiling as he drove away. You know, I can't really picture that in the movie.
He doesn't smile that much. I didn't underline that line, but I love it. The one that's like something about gas in her car.
Oh, the wasting of finite resources is everyone's concern.
Wait, so what did she say was the first part?
I think they're talking about, he's saying they should take his car because it takes less gas.
Yeah, and she says that's none of your concern.
Yeah.
And he says, like, the wasting of finite resources is everybody's concern.
Edward, you kill me. He's so cute.
He's so quick. He's so quick sense of humor.
I freaking, I'm turning into a fangirl right now. Like, it's happening. But when I read this book, I just love Edward so much. He's like my favorite fictional character in this.
The next chapter is chapter 6, Scary Stories.
Scary Stories.
It's really just an old scary story.
Jacob Black. This is his big moment.
He's
in
it
a bit more in the movie, I think.
Yeah.
In the book than in the movie. Right?
Well, I don't know, because this is where we first see him, is when they go to La Push.
Oh, you're right.
And in the movie, he's obviously there when she first moves and she gets the truck.
There's this whole other part, though, in the book later.
There's another scene
when
with
they come over.
Yeah. I was getting the book and the movie confused when I got to this chapter, so she's like, they meet these kids from La Push, and she says, like, all that I caught was that one of the girls was also named Jessica, and the boy who noticed me was named Jacob. Like, she does not recognize Jacob at all.
Yeah.
And she's just saying, the boy named Jacob, and then he recognizes her. Something I didn't like about this chapter is they go to La Push, and they're going to maybe hike for tide pools. But she doesn't know she wants to do it because she promised Edward that she wouldn't do anything dangerous. And she says,
oh my gosh.
After a half hour of chatter, some of the boys wanted to hike to the nearby tidal pools. I'm sorry, not tide pools. What am I saying?
I think tide pools is a thing. It's little pools with like creatures and
I thought tide pools was like a fetus of a frog.
That's tadpole.
She says, after a half hour of chatter, some of the boys wanted to hike to the nearby tidal pools. It was a dilemma. On the one hand, I loved the tide pools. Oh, I was right. On the one hand, I loved the tide pools. They had fascinated me since I was a child. They were one of the only things I ever looked forward to when I had come to Forks. On the other hand, I'd also fallen into them a lot. Not a big deal when you're 7 and with your dad. It reminded me of Edward's request that I not fall into the ocean. So she actually ends up not doing it.
That's weird.
Yeah. I just
sad.
Yeah, it made me sad because it was the one thing about forks that she was looking forward to, and she doesn't do it because of Edward's request.
Bella's ridiculous. Why would she fall in? Just be careful.
I know.
Just watch your feet. Like, just be a little bit more aware this time. I don't know why she's like, I'm sure I'll fall in.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to me.
Well, she actually says Lauren was the one who made my decision for me. She didn't want to hike, and she was definitely wearing the wrong shoes for it. So she ends up staying back because Lauren doesn't go, but I kind of feel like it was influenced also by not wanting to fall.
Yeah. Weird. I thought she didn't even like Lauren.
One more thing I had for that chapter, and I feel like we've already discussed this, but it's so relatable how, like, her mind just drifts to Edward.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing something. Oh, I guess maybe she does go to the tide pools. She's doing something with crabs or whatever. And she says, I was completely absorbed, except for one small part of my mind that wondered what Edward was doing now and trying to imagine what he would be saying if he was here with me.
Oh.
And I just related to that. You're just like doing something at work or something.
Yeah.
And then you just... a small part of your brain is thinking about something else.
Or someone else. So, chapter 7 is Nightmare. There's a lot of Bella listening to a CD that she doesn't tell us whose CD it is, but she listens to it a lot.
Isn't that the one that Phil made her?
He gave her.
Yeah.
I don't think he made it, but... and then he's like...
he made Bella a mixtape.
Because then Edward has the same one in his car.
Yeah. From Phil.
And here she's Googling vampires or trying to figure it out.
I have, in this chapter, I think you mentioned how with, like, how Stephanie wanted a happy ending. She really liked A Midsummer Night's Dream. Mm-hmm. And this part, she's in the forest, and she says, here in the trees, it was much easier to believe the absurdities that embarrassed me indoors. Nothing had changed in the forest for thousands of years, and all the myths and legends of 100 different lands seemed much more likely in this green haze than they had in my clear-cut bedroom. And it made me it made me think about how in A Midsummer Night's Dream all the magical things happen in the forest.
Oh.
And it's like this kind of like fairy tale place. So I think it's interesting how the backdrop of Twilight is like
forest.
Very foresty.
Yeah, you're right.
And how Catherine Hardwicke even said, like, you know, it's a way that we've never seen vampires before. It's really cool. And I feel like a lot of that is to make this story more believable. Like, you wouldn't picture this in, like, the city, but, like, because it's in a forest, it helps with the magic of it.
Totally. I had one note. It's on page 141. I thought it was interesting. It's like a sunny day, and she says, I opened the window, surprised when it opened silently, without sticking, not having opened it in who knows how many years. And the reason I underlined that is I was just reading Midnight Sun, which is Twilight in Edward's perspective, and was never published, but you can read like half of it online, and in Midnight Sun, he goes to her room to like listen to her talk in her sleep, and I remember in Midnight Sun it says that the door, like the window made a noise when he opened it, and he was like, oh, and so like he came back and brought like grease to ungrease it. It's just funny because like it's in Twilight.
Oh my god, that's
her mentioning
so funny.
that like it doesn't make it, it's not sticking, but like Stephanie knew. Edward
that's so weird.
Unstuck it.
So when she was writing this, she knew that Edward did this other thing.
Yeah.
That's so specific.
Oh, and there's another part. The part in the book, I might have made a note, I'm not sure where it is, but he's like, oh, be careful this weekend. Don't go in the forest alone. Like, I'm not the most dangerous thing out there. Mm-hmm. Like, he says that in this book. In Midnight Sun, the reason Edward said that is because Jasper had his friends visiting who weren't vegetarians. And so Edward was, like, so nervous that they were going to, like, eat Bella or something.
Oh, my God.
And Jasper told them not to hunt nearby, but Edward was still really nervous. So, like, that's why he said that. But it's funny because, like, in the book, it just seems like he's just saying that.
He's being overprotective. Yeah.
It's interesting. And another note, on page 143, she's talking to Mike, as she does a lot.
I think I have this note as well.
Yeah, and they're talking about essays that they're working on.
Oh my god, they have the same note.
And he says, what are you writing yours on? Whether Shakespeare's treatment of the female characters is misogynistic. He stared at me like I'd just spoken pig Latin. I thought that was interesting.
I thought it was interesting because people criticize, it's like ironic because people are talking about women in Twilight, but also I hated how he stares at her like she just spoke pig Latin as if she said something really smart. Like, I think 50% of my essays I wrote in school were about female characters in a male story. Like, it's just, like, weird that...
He's like, what?
What? She's, like, really impressed. That's, like, the default essay.
I know. It is kind of a basic thing to write about.
I wrote in my book, hate how Mike reacts as if she just cured cancer.
No, but I do think in high school, all those ideas were kind of new to me, and I was like, well, I'm not saying Mike is like this, but it was like, whoa, yeah, like, oh, misogyny in literature, like, so exciting.
I wonder what he wrote his essay about.
I don't know. But yeah, I thought it was interesting because, again, it feels like more aware of these themes than people think. Mm-hmm. I don't know. People act like Twilight was so not self-aware at all or something.
Yeah. The next chapter, chapter 8, I don't have a lot. My only note is that it's weird in the very beginning of this chapter, she refers to Charlie as the chief.
The chief.
I thought that was just weird. I mean, I already get that she calls him Charlie because she's, like, kind of disconnected. But the chief is just,
I feel like she has, like, a weird sense of humor.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like she's a little bit, like, sassy and sarcastic. She always has things in her head like that.
She says, Jess drove faster than the chief. I just thought it was, I don't know.
So we made it to Port Angeles by 4. So yeah, this chapter is called Port Angeles. They go to Port Angeles. This is when the whole thing happens where those guys in the alley kind of almost attack her, and then Edward shows up. Let me see if I had anything. So after Edward kind of saves the day because he was reading their minds and knew that they were about to, like, rape Bella or something. She meets back up with her friends and they already ate, and Edward says, I think you should eat something. Do you mind if I drive Bella home tonight? That way you won't have to wait while she eats. No problem, I guess. She bit her lip, trying to figure out from my expression whether that was what I wanted. I winked at her. I don't know. I just wrote that down for some reason because I just also think it's hard to picture Bella winking.
Yeah.
They both wink in this book.
Honestly, people don't really wink in real life that much. It's, like, hard to do it. It's not, like, physically hard to do it. It's just hard to pull it off.
Yeah. I'm trying to think whenever I wink. I don't know. I have to be in a certain mood to wink.
Yeah, I haven't winked in a while. Maybe I'll try it tomorrow at work.
Oh, in this chapter, Edward says, that color blue looks lovely with your skin.
That's sweet.
Sweet.
I remember that.
He pushed the breadbasket toward me. Every little thing I'm like, oh my god. Edward's pushing a breadbasket? Like, what? That's so cute. I don't know why I made a note of this. I think I just thought it was interesting. Also thinking about Midnight Sun, because in that you read that, like, when he first meets Bella, he really is thinking of killing her. And she says, did you ever think that maybe my number was up the first time with the van and that you've been interfering with fate? I speculated, distracting myself. That wasn't the first time, he said, and his voice was hard to hear. I stared at him in amazement, but he was looking down. Your number was up the first time I met you. I felt the spasm of fear at his words and the abrupt memory of his violent black glare that first day, but the overwhelming sense of safety I felt in his presence stifled it. By the time he looked up to read my eyes, there was no trace of fear in them. You remember, he asked I don't know. For some reason, it just felt, for the first time, like, actually kind of scary in a way.
Oh.
Like, he's, like, referencing, like, first time I met you, I was going to kill you. And, like, it's, when I was reading that part, I was like, wow, this is actually kind of crazy.
Yeah, and what was actually scary to me is he tells her that he planned to, like, lure her away and kill her.
It's crazy. And,
yeah.
And they're almost, like, nonchalant about it. But when I was reading that part, I was just like, wow.
That was... like, if someone said that to me, I think I'd be like, oh my god.
I know, like, call the cops.
Yeah. My dad.
Oh yeah, call your dad. Chapter 9.
Chapter 9 is called Theory.
Mm-hmm.
This is when it's revealed that he's a vampire, actually. When the conversation goes down. And it actually goes down the whole...
in the car, right?
In the car. I was shocked by that.
It's way less dramatic
oh
in the movie.
Oh my god, it's way less dramatic.
It's in the freaking car. Can you believe that?
I wrote, this scene is not as intense / good in the car, but the dialogue is cute.
Yeah, it's much different feeling. I'm right, I gasped. Does it matter? I took a deep breath. Not really. Like, it's weird.
Yeah,
referring
not really.
to him being a vampire.
I paused, but I am curious. My voice, at least, was composed. He was suddenly resigned. What are you curious about? How old are you? 17, he answered promptly. And how long have you been 17? His lips twitched as he stared at the road. A while, he admitted at last. Okay, I smiled. Like,
it's so different in the
movie.
Don't laugh. But how can you come out during the daytime? He laughed anyway. Myth. Burned by the sun. Myth. Sleeping in coffins. Myth. He hesitated for a moment, and a peculiar tone entered his voice. I can't sleep. Like, they're laughing?
Yeah.
It's funny. Myth, myth. Like, it's...
And in the movie, it's like, how old are you? 17.
And she's, like, breathing heavily.
Yeah, and then she turns. How long have you been 17?
There are these long shots, then close-ups, then long shots, and it's just so dramatic.
Yeah.
And then he grabs her and they run up the mountain.
Yeah.
It's so different.
It's very different.
Oh my God.
I still love the movie,
but
it's kind of a different story. Like,
Oh, this part's different too, because in the movie he's like, ask me the most basic question. What do we eat? Here he says, you aren't concerned about my diet? He asked sarcastically.
Yeah.
Like, sarcastically? Oh, I murmured, that. Yes, that. His voice was bleak. Don't you want to know if I drink blood? I flinched. Well, Jacob said something about that. Like, it's just way more conversational.
Yeah. There's way more dialogue here,
Yeah.
whereas it's very minimal in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot more explaining.
How does the chapter end? Oh, she is unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him. That's how the chapter ends.
Classic.
Classic.
Chapter 10.
Interrogations.
On page 201, I wrote, I love Edward.
What was going on?
Let me see. Oh, yes. When he tells her that Jessica wants to know exactly what went down with Edward.
Yeah.
When they ran into them at the restaurant. And he says, she wants to know if we're secretly dating. And she wants to know how you feel about me, he finally said. Yikes, what should I say? I tried to keep my expression very innocent. People were passing us on their way to class, probably staring, but I barely was aware of them. He paused to catch a stray lock of hair that was escaping the twist on my neck and wound it back into place. My heart spluttered hyperactively. I suppose you could say yes to the first question, if you don't mind. It's easier than any other explanation. I don't mind, I said in a faint voice. So he's saying that she can tell people that they're dating. Like,
that's so, it's just crazy.
It made me, like, feel like a 13-year-old.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then, I'll see you at lunch, he called over his shoulder. Oh my God.
And then he said, and as for the other question, which is how she feels about him, he says, well, I'll be listening to hear the answer to that one myself. Like, it's just so cute.
One side of his mouth pulled up into my favorite uneven smile. Oh, like, just killed me.
I also, in this scene, liked that they addressed whether vampires adhere to hunting laws.
Yeah.
About, like, how many animals you can kill.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's yes and no. It's, he says, well, those laws apply to only people with weapons. But then he, like, also says that they try to scatter around where they hunt.
That's good.
How often do they need to hunt?
I think they actually don't need to hunt for, like, a week or two.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Do they get fat?
No.
They hunt too much.
I don't think so. Chapter 11 is called Complications. Everyone watched us as we walked together to our lab table. Yeah, that's intense. Everyone's watching them. Oh, I thought this part was cute on page 220. So Edward walks her to class. I turned to say goodbye. His face startled me. His expression was torn, almost pained, and so fiercely beautiful that the ache to touch him flared as strong as before. My goodbye stuck in my throat. He raised his hand, hesitant, conflict raging in his eyes, and then swiftly brushed the length of my cheekbone with his fingertips. His skin was icy as ever, but the trail his fingers left on my skin was alarmingly warm, like I'd been burned, but didn't feel the pain of it yet. He turned without a word and strode quickly away from me. And I think he does that again the next day. He, like, stops, touches her face, and then walks away.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, cute. I don't know. It's not in the movies. He walks to her class and then touches her face.
I actually had a part in the meadow scene, not to skip ahead, but it relates to that. It's like, I loved that part, but 277, Bella is just tracing his body. And it's, like, kind of weird. Like, I couldn't picture it. It's, like, cute in a book, but if it was in the movie, it'd be kind of weird. She says, I caressed his cheek delicately, stroked his eyelid, the purple shadow in the hollow under his eye. I traced the shape of his perfect nose, and then, so carefully, his flawless lips. His lips parted under my hand, and I could feel his cool breath breathe on my fingertips.
I don't think that's that weird.
No, I think it's kind of, like, sensual, but I was just picturing it wrong, just, like, her just, like, touching his face.
I feel like that's in a movie. Isn't it in Little Princess? I'm pretty sure, like, the dad and daughter, like, do that or something.
This is, like, very sensual.
No, but it's not like that. They, like, touch their face with their eyes closed or something.
No, it's actually kind of cute. Now I want to do it with someone. But
I definitely have. It's not that weird.
Well, it just felt weird. Like, they don't know each other that well. I don't think they had kissed yet.
That's true. Yeah, they're very intimate without ever having kissed.
Yeah.
In chapter 11, this is when, on page 232, Edward says, "It's twilight." Edward murmured, looking at the western horizon, obscured as it was with clouds. Blah, blah, blah. "It's the safest time of day for us," he said, answering the unspoken question in my eyes. "The easiest time, but also the saddest in a way. The end of another day, the return of the night. Darkness is so predictable, don't you think?" He smiled wistfully. I like that.
Do you think that Stephanie Meyer knew she was going to call it Twilight? Or
She didn't. It used to be called Forks.
Oh, yes, I remember.
Yeah, and then I guess her agent suggested calling it Twilight, which I think is good. It's a good name.
Yeah. It's more marketable.
Yeah. And then plus the other titles, too. Like, what if Twilight was called Forks, what would the next ones be called?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Forks 2.
Forks 2.
And what would you be, a Forks hard?
Forks
a Forks
lover.
fanatic.
Yeah.
I love forks! Oh, the next
Welcome
one is
to
called...
Forks!
The next one is called Spoons.
Oh my gosh. Knives.
Knives. Too many knives.
Then what, though? The spatula.
What do you call that? Spork.
Too weird. The name Forks for a town is kind of funny.
Yeah, it is kind of funny.
That's too funny for the title. Too quirky.
Yeah.
Twilight's a better name. Chapter 12 is called Balancing.
So this was an interesting scene because this is not in the movie at all. Jacob comes and visits the house, and as Edward is driving away, it's kind of in the movie. It's like a couple seconds.
Yeah.
But we don't actually see her hanging out with Jacob in the house.
When they go in the house.
Yeah, and he's like, who was that? He said, I sighed in defeat. Edward Cullen. To my surprise, he laughed. I glanced up at him. He looked a little embarrassed. Guess that explains it then, he laughed. I wondered why my dad was acting so strange. Jacob is just plucky and...
He actually didn't laugh though, it said he said.
Oh. Cut that out. I'm sorry, my eyesight is so bad right now.
Fine. I just feel like we need to seem a little more chill.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, that's right. I faked an innocent expression. He doesn't like the Cullens. Superstitious old man, Jacob muttered under his breath. Yeah, he's plucky.
Oh, but sorry, maybe you can cut out what I said earlier. He's like asking her first, like, who is that? Like, she says a friend, and then he keeps asking. He's like, I didn't recognize the driver. Like, he doesn't
so
really
who
let
was
it
it?
go.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I underlined on page 242, she says, he wanted to know about people today. Edward being he. They're like just talking and getting to know each other. More about Renee, her hobbies, what we'd done in our free time together, and then the one grandmother I'd known, my few school friends, embarrassing me when he asked about boys I dated. So this kind of answers a question we had before that was like, who's Bella's family? Like, does she have any grandparents? Apparently she only knew one, and my few school friends. So she only had a few. Which is weird, and we never hear about them again, I don't think. Then on the next page, that's when they have plans to go to the meadow, which is the next chapter, instead of Seattle because the sun's going to be out. And Edward says, if I'm going to be alone with you tomorrow, I'm going to have to take whatever precautions I can. Because he's going hiking later. His face grew morose and pleading. You can always cancel, you know. I just thought that was really cute that he said that. Like, he seemed self-conscious.
Yeah.
And like, you can cancel. I get that feeling. Like, you don't have to hang out with me if you don't want to. But she does want to. It's just cute.
That's like, I have a friend. Always, like, whenever we have any plans or, like, she has to do anything, she's like, do you want to get drinks? But no pressure.
But no pressure. Aw, that's sad. Still in this chapter, I underlined. I just thought this was cute too. She has plans with Edward that day. She's home alone. She's eating breakfast. I had just finished brushing my teeth and was heading back downstairs when a quiet knock sent my heart thudding against my ribcage. I don't know why him knocking on the door was cute to me.
This is where we're getting into, like, really, like, Twilight territory. Like,
it's just so cute. Like, in the movies, he always just, like, shows up. Like, I don't know. We never get the little human moments like that. I feel like in the movie, he always just walks through a window and is, like, there. I don't know. So it's cute to picture him knocking. I know it's so ridiculous of me, but hey, I underlined it.
All right, so now we're on chapter 13.
Yes.
13 reasons why.
13 is called Confessions.
Confessions. This chapter was huge for me. This is when they go to the meadow for the
change your
life.
life.
Yeah, it did.
It's huge for me.
This scene is much sweeter than it is in the movie. It's, like, weird because the scene isn't, like, it's just so the lion fell in love with the lamb part.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not the how old are you are you part.
They're past that now.
Yeah, so it's a different scene from the movie, but it has similar elements.
This is when he shows her what he looks like in the sunlight. And they're in the meadow together. It's so cute. Oh my god. He's like, tell me what you're thinking, he whispered. Oh, it's just cute.
It's really sweet. Oh, this is the part where she says, I lightly trailed my hand over the perfect muscles of his arm, followed the faint pattern of bluish veins inside the crease of his elbow. I just thought it's weird that he has veins.
I know. I guess he has veins. When he drinks blood, does that go in his veins?
How does that work? Wait, so then he's like putting the blood into his veins. So then is he a human?
I don't know. The more you question it, the least it makes sense.
Yeah,
so
I thought like he shouldn't have veins. I just didn't like that, but there is a part that's word for word, as it is in the movie. I'm the world's best predator, aren't I? It's actually dangerous in the movie, but everything about me invites you in. My voice, my face, even my smell. As if I wouldn't need any of that. As if you could outrun me. But it's actually, he laughed bitterly.
Yeah, he's not furious and like, yeah, he's laughing. Like, what?
As if you could fight me off, he said gently.
Gently.
Then it says, don't be afraid, he murmured, his velvet voice unintentionally seductive. I promise, he hesitated. I swear not to hurt you. He seemed more concerned with convincing himself than me. Don't be afraid, he whispered again, as he stepped closer with exaggerated slowness.
Then he says, please forgive me, he said warmly.
It's very vulnerable.
I'm not thirsty today, honestly. She still hasn't said anything.
Yeah. Are you all right, he asked tenderly. He's very, like, vulnerable and concerned. And
Oh, he's just so cute, though. He's, like, talking about how her blood smells really appealing to him. It says, you know how everyone enjoys different flavors, he began. Some people love chocolate ice cream, others prefer strawberry. I nodded. Sorry about the food analogy. I couldn't think of another way to explain. I don't know, like, the things he says in this is, like, much more relatable, like, cute, and, like, he like, messes up and stuff, and, like,
yeah.
I don't know. Also not in the movie. Obviously, they can't have, like, hours of dialogue in the movie, but I just think Edward is so much more of a person in the book.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of Bella's inner thoughts where she's talking about Edward's human instincts coming out, and he actually says at some point that he's becoming more human. But it's hot, they kiss.
Oh my gosh, I know, I underlined that. No, he continued, I was thinking there was something I wanted to try, and he took my face in his hands again. I couldn't breathe. He hesitated. Yeah, that's what you just said. Not in the normal way, the human way. And then his cold marble lips pressed very softly against mine.
I was just thinking marble lips. What does that feel like?
Smooth? Cold?
Hard?
And then he says, are you still faint from the run, or was it my kissing expertise?
I love that.
So cute. How lighthearted, how human he seemed as he laughed now. His seraphic face untroubled. He was a different Edward than the one I had known, and I felt all the more besotted by him. It would cause me physical pain to be separated from him now.
And then,
Bella.
I love when they're leaving, and he wants to drive. And he says, Bella, I've already expended a great deal of personal effort at this point to keep you alive. I'm not about to let you walk behind the wheel of a vehicle when you can't even walk straight. Besides, friends don't let friends drive drunk, he quoted with a chuckle. I could smell the unbearably sweet fragrance coming off his chest. Drunk? I objected. You're intoxicated by my very presence. He was grinning that playful smirk again.
Oh my gosh. And then she says, are you not affected at all? I asked, irked by my presence.
Again, his mobile features transformed. His expression became soft, warm. He didn't answer at first. He simply bent his face to mine and brushed his lips slowly along my jaw, from my ear to my chin, back and forth. I trembled. Regardless, he finally murmured, I have better reflexes. So hot. I couldn't read that without smiling. Also, tremble for my beloved. Always.
Right.
That's where it comes into play.
Yes. Well, that's chapter 13. Is there anything else, though?
I think there was one other thing that I wanted to say. Oh, yeah. She gets kind of woozy from the run.
Yeah.
When he grabs her and, like, they run up the hill. I thought it was a little less cool that she feels like she's gonna throw up. It's a little more realistic, but not needed in the movie.
That would be so fun. It would totally mess up the drama.
Oh my, she
like the dramatic music's playing and then she's like, I'm gonna throw up.
He says, how do you feel? He asked. I couldn't be sure how I felt and my head was spinning so crazily. Dizzy, I think. Put your head between your knees. I tried that and it helped a little. It's just like so awkward. It's like when you're with someone and they're not feeling well.
Overall, I felt reading it that there was just so much more. Edward was so much sweeter. So many cute moments. They joke. It's just very cute. And I recommend rereading it to anybody.
Yeah, it really... I'm excited to read Midnight Sun now because I remember that one was like even more
oh my god
cute.
I pulled out Midnight Sun just to read like a teeny bit. I was just like, I just wanted to read a page and I ended up that night just getting sucked into it. I literally couldn't stop. It's so interesting because he can read people's minds. Like, it's fascinating. I literally couldn't stop reading him read people's minds, like in the cafeteria and stuff. It's just so interesting.
Do you have any final thoughts on this? It's tough because she's already read the whole thing and I've only read a little more than half, so she's saving a lot of her thoughts.
Yeah, a lot of my thoughts are for the second half of the book.
I'm thoroughly enjoying this, and like you said, I would highly recommend it. Oh, yeah. Something that we want to share is we got some listener mail.
Listener mail.
This is in response to, and please, guys, send us mail if you have anything to say about our episodes. We really want to hear from you.
Our email's just what the title of our podcast is, anotherbiteoftwilight@gmail.com.
We got listener mail from a listener named Marissa. Shout out. And she was responding to our episode about what we would change.
Yep.
She shares some of her ideas and we thought they were really interesting. She says, it does seem kind of silly that the antagonists from the first book are still being dealt with in the third. I think it would have been much more interesting for the main conflict in the series to have centered around the Volturi. That's such an interesting storyline and it never gets resolved considering at the end of Breaking Dawn they all decide not to fight. The Volturi could hatch a plan to get Edward and Alice to join them, and then the Cullens would have to gather allies to help them take down the Volturi. There would be a fight, and I agree, people need to die. Esme would be a good death because she is so motherly that you could see her sacrificing herself for her children. I could see it. One of the siblings could die too, and some of the wolves, of course. Of course. I think it would still make sense for Bella to become a vampire at some point and for it to be a necessity, though not because of a baby. I agree. But she has to sacrifice her relationship with her parents as a result. She can't have it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing. She goes on to say, I also thought it would be interesting that even after the Volturi discovered Renesmee wasn't an immortal child, they would want to kill her because keeping vampires a secret was becoming more important than ever as humans were developing technology that could potentially wipe them out if they were discovered. Dealing with the ramifications of humans having a defense against vampires would be a cool direction to take. What if there were cases of vampires attacking humans and getting killed or seriously injured? Perhaps more vampires would want to become vegetarians so they could live in peace with humans. Maybe the Volturi's aim was actually to gather as many gifted vampires as they could to their side so they could dominate the humans before technology progressed too far. I think that's a really interesting idea.
Yeah.
Because they kind of allude to this conflict that might go down in the future. And, I mean, who's to say? I mean, vampires probably aren't real in real life, so we don't know what kind of technology will wipe them out, but it's this...
Whether it's, like, a vaccine or, like, somehow just, like, bombing them or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's also interesting that there's this darkness to Twilight that there are these other vampires who are just killing humans all the time. So what if there was this revolution to just get rid of all vampires.
I always wonder, how do vampires, like, network with each other? Like, how do they get in contact?
Yeah.
Is there social media just for vampires?
I know. I mean, they probably don't want to, like, use
true
technology to contact because that can hurt them. What if that is how they're discovered, is they just send some emails?
Oh my god.
It's like Hillary Clinton all over again.
No, but I feel like because there are already, quote, crazy people out there who claim they're witches or claim they're vampires, like, they do the job of making it not credible in a way. It's like, oh, they're just crazy. But I guess if you talked about killing people. Anyway.
She says, in terms of relationships, I think the love triangle storyline still works. I wish they would have delved more into Edward underestimating Bella. I liked how in Breaking Dawn, Edward admits that he has a bad habit of underestimating her. It would have been an interesting story arc if there was more obvious cases throughout the movies of Edward not trusting Bella's judgment and eventually growing to realize she has valuable capabilities despite not being a vampire. Her mental resilience, for example. I think it's interesting she says the movies because I think we do see more of Edward being vulnerable and honest and, like, showing that he is flawed. Like, by him saying, like, you can cancel if you want. Like,
yeah, in the books.
I think in the books we see more of that, but in the movies it's just not a focus point. Likewise, if Jacob was apt to trust in her abilities and to take her seriously, it would have made it a legitimate possibility that she would choose him over Edward, and added more tension to her decision. Yeah, I agree with that. Do you have anything to say?
It just challenges me thinking about, like, I can think of ways that Jacob would be more appealing too, but then it, like, upsets me, because then I'm like, but I love Edward.
Yeah.
But if it was like that, it would be hard to prefer Edward.
Yeah, and but I almost feel like you kind of need that. Because when I'm watching the scenes with Jacob, I'm like, whatever. And I think it's a more compelling story of who's she gonna choose. I think it's so obvious she's gonna choose Edward.
I don't know. I mean, I asked Robin.
He's a very talented musician. I'm kind of like Edward in that way. He's the coolest movies. I love Catherine Hardwicke.
I love her voice.
Anyway, she did such a great job directing that This Is Us episode as well. She ends with, I guess it would have been nice to see more obvious character growth in all three of them. For example, yes, Edward was controlling sometimes, but if they addressed that as one of his flaws and had him overcome it, it would have been really cool. Anyways, just wanted to say thanks for putting yourselves out there and making the podcast. I'm looking forward to listening to more episodes.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you for listening. And we love just having a thoughtful, engaging conversation with you guys about Twilight, because I think it's really interesting and
so sweet.
Yeah, and anyone else listening, like,
don't be shy.
If you're rereading the first book now, let us know what you noticed.
Yeah.
I think this was my first time reading it since maybe beginning of high school.
Yeah, probably me too. I haven't read it in so long.
I read it several times back in the day.
What do you think, as we're both college graduates with English degrees, what do you think about the writing?
Oh, I should have said this earlier, but the beginning it was hard for me to get into because, you know, we went with Bella, her first day of school, and she was just we were going to every single class, and it was really dragged out. But then once Edward was involved, I don't know, he's just such an intriguing character that I feel like any scene he's in, I'm so captivated by it. There is some things that could totally be edited out, like in writing classes, they tell us not to use too many dialogue tags.
Oh, like murmured, whispered,
or
growled.
Even to say, he said playfully, or he said, because it's like people can't really picture that well, and that the dialogue should just kind of convey the delivery well enough. It kind of forces you to have good dialogue.
I mean, I feel like I can picture what she's trying to say. Like when she does say, like he says playfully, I do picture him being playful, but it would be better if she just said it. Like, when she says playfully, for instance, I picture, like, Edward tilting his head or something and, like, you know, squinting his eyes a little bit and smiling, but she should have just said that.
Yeah, exactly. Growled is one of those things that they tell us not to do in writing classes because you just can't picture a person growling. It's just, like, you know what I mean? Like, and no one can say something and growl at the same time. I feel like
what you want to say there is, like, snarled, if anything.
Yeah, they should, then
just she growl, should say like, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. There are a lot of adverbs, but you get used to it, and I don't know. It doesn't bother me that much. To be honest, like, I learned all these rules in my writing classes, like, you should do this, you should never do that. And I've been reading a lot of books lately. I don't know why. And I've been just trying to, now that I'm out of school and, like, have more free time without homework and stuff, I notice, like, everybody breaks those rules.
Yeah.
Even, like, I just started reading Anna Karenina by Tolstoy, which is supposed to be one of the best books ever written, and they even say things like, oh, it made him sad and embarrassed. Like, says, they always say, like, don't say that. Like, don't say, like, I felt an emotion. Like, you're supposed to, like, describe it. But so many, in quotes, good or, like, classic, great books I read do break those rules sometimes. So
yeah, I guess
it's interesting.
When to break them.
Yeah.
I also, in writing classes, I guess not super relatable, but they taught me to, like, not just be concise, but to write sentences as short as possible. Like, whenever you want to put a comma, put a period instead. So just, like, I don't know, at least last few years they taught me to just write really, really short sentences. Mm-hmm. So now I feel like I make my sentences too short, and I work at a publishing company now, and I was writing something and someone edited it for me, and they just combined a lot of my sentences.
Yeah.
And I'm just noticing that, like, everyone writes long sentences.
But I think what people don't get is, like, that commas do have a purpose. Mm-hmm. And the reason people always say to omit them is because sometimes you're using them incorrectly. Like, there are correct and incorrect ways to use commas. And so a long sentence with commas doesn't mean it's bad. It just has to be correctly used. Like, you never use a comma before, like, or. Mm-hmm. Or, I don't even think before but. Never before and, unless it's, like, a list. Like, there's all these times when you should use a comma and when you shouldn't. And so, like, if you're using it correctly, then there's, like, no problem. But, like, I know in my writing classes, people would be the same. They're like, get rid of that comma, get rid of that comma, get rid of that comma. But, like, sometimes it actually works.
Yeah.
So, I think it's just, knowing what reads well. I do think, like, it's good to be concise, but I also think a lot of really short sentences in a row is weird.
They sound weird, yeah.
It's all judgment and context and...
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like it's weird because if I was, like, not engaged in this story, I might feel differently, but I'm not really noticing.
I wasn't noticing either very much.
And
works for me.
And it works for me. And something that Stephanie Meyer did, it worked. So I mean, people can write really concise, grammatically correct sentences, but then the story just isn't engaging. So you need to have that interesting characters.
The suspense, and there's a lot more to a good book than the writing. And I have read, I forget if I said this on the podcast yet, like, I recently read another young adult book for fun, because I've owned it for years, and I don't know, I was like, I have to read this. Like, I've never read it before, and I don't know why that makes me feel guilty. But anyway, I won't say what it is, but, like, the writing was just bad. And I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot of young adult books compared to this that are, like, much worse. Just so childish, and, like, in that book, in the first chapter, they said the word but, like, 5 times.
Yeah. Wait, butt, B-U-T-T?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
Butt. Like, it fell on my butt. I was like, oh my god. I'm like, how is this? I don't know. It's definitely, like, it is a young adult book, but I do feel like it's slightly more mature than some other young adult books. And maybe, like, we should keep that in mind, that it's supposed to be young adult.
Yeah.
Like, it isn't trying to be Tolstoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
I think this is going to end up being a long episode.
Oh my god! Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening, and as always, see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.
Bye. Have a great week.
Wink.
Wink.
Oh my god, I can't believe how long it is.
Hey guys, now you can expect new episodes every other Tuesday on Twilight Tuesdays. See you next Tuesday. Actually, not next one, but the one after that. We love you. Bye.
You can contact us at anotherbiteoftwilight@gmail.com or find us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at anotherbiteoftwilight. The music is by Traces. See you next time.